Hi, hello. My name is Bong Austero. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. I'd appreciate if you can subscribe and click the notification button so that you'd get notified every time I have a new video. As I shared in one of my previous videos, one of the reasons why I actually put out this channel was because I wanted to share my cancer journey. To be specific, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in February this year. One of the things that I realized quickly was that while there were many people who told me, okay lang yan, kasi thyroid cancer yan, okay? Well, that's one of the easiest cancers to treat. It was actually difficult for me to look for someone who has had thyroid cancer to share the experience with. I would have wanted to sit down with somebody and listen to him or her share with me um, how it was, no. But I realized that most people with who come down with cancer, they prefer not to talk about their experience. Maybe because ayaw nilang kawaan sila ng mga tao, o kasi they want to, they don't want to be accused of capitalizing on their cancer. Okay, so one of the things that I realized very early on is that many of the cancer stories out there are actually stories of triumph and success stories. They're usually stories of courage and of how people won over different struggles, because it's difficult to come down with cancer, and it's important that we normalize certain things, that it's okay to come down. Well, it's not okay in the sense that nobody wants to have cancer, but it's okay to talk about things like this. The second one was that cancer is very tricky to diagnose. Like I said, I had no symptoms other than GERD related symptoms, like gastroesophageal reflux disease, no. So I have the worst acid reflux for the longest time, that I would, end up in the emergency room many times, like once every 3 weeks, because I would have like heart attacks symptoms. On hindsight, it the doctor said it was actually related more to the thyroid than to GERD, no. But anyway, we could have had that checked, instead of just saying, kasi acid reflux lang yan, no. Actually, one doctor did try to say that to me, na, please, have you had your thyroid checked? But again, like you said, the lab tests were always normal every year anyway, no? So on hindsight, you know, it's important to listen to intuition. In fact, the reason why I got diagnosed was by accident and because of my doctor's, intuition, that something was wrong. I had pneumonia vaccine last year. It wasn't related to the cancer, but I had a pneumonia vaccine. And 2 days after, may nag-grow na mass. Okay. I went to a doctor and the doctor said, okay lang yan, normal yan sa nagpapavaccine. Usually may tumutubo talagang mass, but it will go away on its own. So I forgot about it. But after two months, napansin ko, uy, nandun pa pala siya at lumalaki na siya. So anyway, I went to see my surgeon. And of course, the recommendation was to have it removed immediately. So we scheduled it. But even then, sinabi niya na sa akin, teka lang, did you have your prostate check, your lungs, and I told him, okay, I showed him the results of my annual executive checkup, which just happened, like a few months ago. Before then, and everything was normal, except that I didn't have ultrasound for my thyroid. So he said, okay, let's remove it first. We had it removed, and the biopsy came out benign. So it could have stopped there. But the doctor told me, just because it's benign doesn't really mean that we can forget about it. No? So he said, if I were you, I would still have the ultrasound of the thyroid, okay, just to be sure. So I did. I listened to him, okay. Um, I did, and the results came out shocking. I had 10 nodules in my thyroid. Okay, and out of the 10, two were in a they had a rating system na pang 1 to 4. Yung dalawa 4. Ibig sabihin, sa ultrasound pa lang, highly suspicious na siya. Okay? So the next step was to undergo what was called a fine needle procedure. Basically, it's a biopsy. Okay? So a radiologist and a surgeon puts you under an equipment, like a camera, and they guide the needle, and then they remove tissues from the suspected mass. Okay, the results were delayed. So right there and then, my gut feeling told me something's wrong, because it usually in 3 days, 4 days the results are out, but if it takes 8 days to process it, it means that they double check, they triple check the results. No, and at the time I was already reading up on the worst case scenario. So I had already enrolled in discussion groups. So I already asked questions online. So I was prepared for the worst. So when I sat down with my doctor, I was ready, and he was amazed at how easily I accepted it, and that I was moving on to talk about options immediately. He was telling me, in fact, slow down, think about it first. These are your options, let's schedule the surgery in 2 months. But I was, no, doc, I already basically covered everything. So I was already asking all the possible questions. No? So we scheduled the surgery for March. Okay, I wanted to do it immediately after my birthday. Unfortunately, you know, COVID happened. Okay, so we had to move it. Like up. And the ECQ lasted until the end of May. Okay, so it was only safe to go back to hospitals no mga June. So that's when I started doing my lab tests and undergoing the procedures to clear myself for surgery. Okay. So anyway, so we had the surgery in July. Sobrang madrama on the day that I was diagnosed with cancer, when the results of the fine needle procedure came out. Okay. Um, so I sat down with my doctor at 1 o'clock. Pumasok pa ako sa school ng 6. And then yung katabing bahay namin nasunog at like 6:15. As in, katabing-katabi. I'll show you the video now. Yan. Okay, so can you imagine it, like sobrang madrama yung araw na yun. As in, literally, my life was practically on fire. Okay, but we were saved by a firewall, just a thin firewall. We could have lost everything. Okay, and I wasn't even home, no, and the people in my house didn't get anything inside the house, not even my paintings. Anyway, sige, so but that's water under the bridge. But I took it as a sign. In fact, immediately after the fire, I gathered everybody and told them the bad news. Of course, my daughter was crying, and all of that. But I was very optimistic about the prognosis. Okay, so we had the surgery finally in July. Okay, the surgery was supposed to 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 last 2 to 3 hours. At most, sabi ng doctor ko, 3 hours. It lasted 5 hours. Okay? Kasi yung cancer, dikit sa trachea. As in, dikit na dikit sa trachea. So, hindi siya tanggal lang. So, they had to scrape it, and they had to cauterize it, and they had to burn it. Kasi nga, hindi na makukuha lahat. Okay? And the doctors were very, very careful to make sure that hindi maluto yung trachea ko at hindi siya mabutas. In fact, the doctors were scared that I would lose my voice. Okay? And for a while there, when I woke up, I was scared that I didn't have a voice. Okay? So, the first thing that my doctor asked me to do was to speak up. Okay? So, medyo hirap nung simula. Po sabi niya, you have to speak up. Okay? So, fortunately, and I took it as another good sign, I could actually speak. Mahina lang, pero I actually did not lose my voice. Medyo nabago lang siya ng konti nung simula, no? But I had a voice, which was a good thing. My doctor didn't tell me this, but he actually clipped a tissue outside of my thyroid and had it tested also for cancer. 2 weeks after, because I wanted to delay the radiation as long as possible. I was thinking, uwi muna ako sa probinsya, kung pwedeng after 6 months na lang yung radiation. But my doctor said, no, talk to me in 2 weeks. Okay. So I went back after 2 weeks and he sat me down and he said, look, the results of the tissue that I clipped on your lymph nodes also tested positive for malignancies. In other words, in 4 months' time, since the fine needle surgery, the cancer actually spread from your thyroid to your lymph nodes. So technically, it was stage 2 already kasi it had spread to the lymph node. So he said, we should do the radiation as quickly as we could because that could mean we kill all the cancer cells immediately. So we scheduled it as the soonest possible time. So like we could only do radiation 30 days after the surgery. So talagang on the dot, on the 30th day after my total thyroidectomy, we scheduled the radiation. Unfortunately, Murphy's Law again. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong.